Hello. It's Nikki. Welcome to a brand new episode. I am so delighted that you are here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I want to give you some energy saving techniques or things to think about. As energy prices seem to be going through the roof, I feel like we need to also look at ourselves. And also look at the ways in which we are doing things. Because I've realized more and more, like the more children that I have, the more things that I want to do, the older that I get, the more energy that is required. And I have to be in control of that. I have to make some decisions around that. And I guess these decisions started being made when I had my first baby nearly 7 years ago. And I realized that what was being told out there in the internet land was maybe not going to work for me. And B, because I was self-employed and I wasn't kind of going back to a job and we didn't have any childcare or anything like that, I was going to have to get super savvy about the way that I worked and how I spent my time and what I did, and really pay attention to where my energy was going. And I want to, first and foremost, before I give you some things to think about, go back to who you are as a consumer. So in our new house, we've been buying paint recently. And because we've had a bit of a weird overlap of our dates and things like that, we've been able to paint quite a bit of the new house already. And it's been a really interesting process because I've painted the odd wall in my life, but nothing really significant. And I've tended to live in places which are fairly sort of neutral decor, don't really need much doing to them. But this time it feels different. And there is a whole world of paint out there. Oh my goodness. And once you enter into that world, you're like, wow, there's so many things to think about. The finish, the surface, how much you need, color matching, what else is going in the room, the light. Oh my goodness, there's so many things. And so because I knew and our intention was to paint and to buy paint, I also didn't want to make any mistakes. And of course, we have made a couple of mistakes because that's life and you're not going to do everything perfectly all the time. But in terms of my purchasing, I knew that I was going to need some time. I was going to need that research time. So how it began was me looking on Pinterest. Then I started to look at Instagram and think about colors. I also started to think about spaces and what we wanted to do. I then went on to websites of paint brands and I started to explore. They often have an inspiration page. So I started to go there and think about colors that I liked. Then I ordered the swatches and brought them home and started to look at those. I then started to go into a couple of shops and just sort of wander around and get a sense of things that were happening. I then went and bought samples and brought them home and then painted them on big pieces of paper and then made the next decision. I then started to do one room at a time because actually I didn't necessarily have the headspace to go, okay, this is all the paint that we need for the whole house. Like I just couldn't do it. I then realized there was going to be other things that I needed to buy because we wanted to do our skirting boards. We needed radiator paint. Like there's so many painting scenarios going on. But I was thinking about the fact that if I just wandered into a paint shop and said, hello, I need some paint, please, the person who I was exchanging in that conversation with, I would probably be their worst nightmare. If I went in at that stage one of saying, hello, here I am, can you help me? I wouldn't have been prepared for that circumstance. Therefore, the person who was on the other end of the conversation was probably not going to make a sale that day. And what that person could share with me could have been done in the privacy of my own home and in my own time. And I was thinking about that sense of, by the time I went to that paint shop, and I've been to several others, like you'll see me wandering around North London with various other paints because they don't have the thing that you want and la 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 la. Now when I go in, I feel prepared. I feel like I know what I'm asking for. I know what I need to buy. I know how much of it. And sometimes for the most part, now I'm at this stage of buying it, I'm 90% sure. There's been a couple of times where somebody else has suggested something like, oh, have you thought about this color? Or this has just come in. What do you, or a customer just did X, Y, and Z. What do you think? But for the most part, I'm 90% sure, like I'm just coming in, I'm just going to buy the paint and let's do that. So enough about the paint scenario. I want to go back to your business and your brand now. And I want to explore with you how you are doing business, how you are, and I hate this phrase, but it's one that we will know what it means. How are you closing sales? And what I mean by this is, by the time you're in conversation with a client or a customer, are they at that point of being 90% sure and they just need to do a few checks and they're ready to go? Because when I talk to people on my strategy calls, my free 15 minutes that I do, for the most part, most people, they definitely know that they need a coach. They definitely know that they want some support. And sometimes actually, but not so much these days because of the podcast and the work that I put out there. Sometimes people will be like speaking to me and then they'll maybe speak to another coach and then they'll make a decision based on what they need. Absolutely fine. In fact, I would highly recommend that. It's really interesting. So by the time somebody comes on a call with me, they're just checking that I am who I say I am. They're checking that we have a rapport. We have a good feel to the conversation. And then they're ready to go. And then they're excited and they're like, okay, it's just a case of availability, a case of a check. And this is what I want to get to in terms of the business, my business, and yours potentially. I want my business to be so clear, to be so helpful, to be so useful, even when I'm not there. And when I was beginning my coaching journey, I was listening to a lot of people who were just saying, book in sales calls, back to back to back to back to back, sell all day. To me, that is not a good use of my time, because how do I know if that person is ready? And also, I never want to be in a state where I'm trying to convince somebody that that's what they need to do. That doesn't feel ethical to me. I want somebody to come to me and say, I'm ready to make a purchase. I just need a bit of advice on which one that is. Because if I am leading that thing of like, just get on the phone, I'll convince you that you need that thing. If that first person feels pressured and they make a random purchase, they may regret it, or they may not do the work, or it may not be aligned. So what I'm doing always now is looking at ways that my business, my shop, my tools, my content that I put out into the world, I am focusing on it being available for you whenever you need it. And so that is my baseline. So people get lots of different podcasts and they get to know me in that way. And then if you want to go further, if you want to come on a call with me, I hope by that point that you've experienced a lot of me. You know what I'm like, you know what I stand for, you know my integrity, you know my experience, my skills, my flavor, etc. And that for me is a much better use of my time. I would rather create content that I can share globally, worldwide, rather than just booking sales call back to back to back and trying to convince people. That is not a good use of my time. So that is my question for you today. How can you create your business in a way that feels amazing, that feels that you can be in control of your time and put the stuff out there that you absolutely need and keep moving forward and spending time doing the things that you actually love to do? I love to actually do the coaching with people who are ready and enthusiastic and like, okay, let's do this. We've all been in scenarios where you're maybe hosting a meeting or you're, you're in a situation where you've had people in the room who don't necessarily want to be there or they're not quite a perfect fit. Oh my goodness, it puts you on the back foot so much where suddenly you go into convincing mode of like, well, I don't know, do you like this? I mean, like, how can I make it better for you? I want people to be ready. That is when I know that I can be in my most useful state where people are like, all right, let's do this, Nikki. And that's not to say it's going to be plain sailing the whole way, because doing this work, sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to do it today. Oh my goodness. Or this is challenging me, or I feel like I'm moving out of my comfort zone, etc. But generally, I want that vibe. I want that energy, because that is what grows my business. When I'm working with my absolutely ideal clients and I know that they're talking about me to other people, or they're talking about what they're doing, or they're sharing their results, that is really exciting. So I'm going to leave that with you today. Work through that scenario in terms of the paint as well. What would be your kind of customer journey in a way, like using the example of how I would be in the paint shop? How can people get to know you? How can people make their own decisions so they're ready for this process? Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate it. You can go over to my freebie section, nikkieraby.com/freebies, or equally do book in a pick and mix session with me. Check my availability, email hello@nikkieraby.com. You can find out all about the sessions, nikkieraby.com/sessions. That's it for now. I will speak to you very soon. I'm sending you lots and lots of love, and have a wonderful day. Bye.